Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Bond, founder of Sonic Leap. Welcome to the show. I have a special guest on today, as a fan favorite, Jenny Lee, the Seer. And we're going to go into all kinds of amazing stuff into amplifying and giving activations to the audience's third eyes to awaken, as well as going into what we've been seeing and deeper in world events, future events, and many other topics, as well as tracking down what's going on with the ETs and the Watchers. So, Jenny Lee, can you tell the audience a little refresher on about yourself and how you've been doing?
I've been doing good. I mean, it's just been staying busy like all of us, right? We're in an activation mode of, just the consumption of information and watching us go into this golden age process, because this is what we've been born to do. And now to get it to the next level of the golden age, we're all waiting for this next process. I think everybody's done with 3D. I think they've had it, right? We are over it. So now I think our attention span is getting more to the direction of, okay, let's get into the bigger stuff with the 5D, the higher advanced technology, healing our physical body instantly. And, just, I think that whole process, education, finances, everything's going to change overnight. And I've said that for a long time. This is not going to be a drag out 3D process once we hit that golden age gate and get into that process. So I think we're all ready.
Oh, I agree. I've been wanting that more for a while for also the collective as well as the earth. And it seems like there's a bunch of anchors holding us back in various things that have been done to us, and wounds, and trauma, and things attached to us. And the perception to keep the veils going as a quarantine grid to separate so that there's less spreading of the negativity that's been dealt with in trauma. And as more people face those things, become aware and resolve their suffering, and those veils come down, and we've been seeing a lot of veils come down. What do you think also into that, as well as what it takes to release these anchors, or what is holding back from 5D?
So honestly, it's fear. But also, when I would tap into higher realms, you would feel aliens above us to a certain point. And now I feel it on this level. We are always waiting for them to appear. And I think they've been showing us for weeks, that they're here. And now I don't think it's going to be a hard concept for people to accept it. We're ready for it. I'm not in any process of fear on any existence of aliens appearing at all, So I think having society start to work with them and seeing that how well that could work out to our benefit and theirs and for this planet, I think that's the thing. Because once that starts to be implemented and changed, it brings everybody together, working with many species together, universal, because I never got into, this is a reptilian, this is a gray. And Spirit always told me, a soul will choose a dark or the light. They have to make their own choice what they serve. It doesn't matter the form that they're at. What do they decide in their soul what they want to choose? So I don't look at things in a process of species. I look at things in a process of the soul. What's it deciding to do? What's it deciding to serve? And I think that that whole prejudice process is going to be completely dismantled as a region together. And I think that's what's they're ready to see a shift into that, instead of, the wars and the, just the whole control and money be the number one source that everybody's trying to contain. I think it's changing, and you see it because people don't care about living in lavish homes anymore. They don't care about having a ton of money anymore. They just want to be content and at peace. They realize it is about that, having just enough of a balance to enjoy life and the fruits that Spirit brings us in a good way.
True. Yeah, and hopefully we can get some more activation going on with the people that have greater sway, such as this lovely audience here. And as they become aware of these concepts of what to let go of and to help amplify into the collective, then we're going to speed this along. There'll be leaps and bounds and jumps. There's probably going to be a jump tonight as well.
Right.
So what you've been working on and pay attention to and seeing of late?
Right. Well, I want to talk about, let's talk about the 5 plates of the Watchers, because this has always been important for me. Because when I started with the form of the keys, in those realms, I think I sent you some of this information too. That each key has to do with a higher dimension of understanding, and how we lose the physical body and we go into these lighter forms, and we work together in the lighter form, and then we get into that God creation process and we move into those levels. And that was the whole thing. I mean, residing with flesh, water, blood, and bone, I'm like, that's a limitation. And, our vessel is going into that crystal line with the plasma process, and you're already feeling it. We're already going through those upgrades, and you could feel it every day. And and I don't feel pain the same way. And I also feel ignited about taking care of yourself different. I haven't been to the doctor in 2.5 years. I don't plan on ever going. We're just totally changing. It's just, we can observe the 3D, but I feel like I'm not even interacting with it. And you can totally disconnect yourself from that process. So with all the alignment of Earth is happening right now, we're talking, the gateways, the pyramids, the ley lines. Okay. I don't know. It went out again. So we're in an activation at the, with everything. Animals are in that stillness process. Nature is reacting. Water is reacting. Animals are reacting. What's beneath the ocean is moving and shifting into position. And aren't you going to Egypt? You and your girlfriend? Are you going? She was telling me about something like that too. I'm really curious of what you guys are going to feel when you're there now.
Yeah, you do some work. I've been feeling a bunch of things activating with the grid over there. There's a lot of pivotal points to all the pyramid grids. It's a big root chakra foundation for it all. So big war over it. So a lot of big changes.
Yeah, and that's like that main crystal. They showed me that, one of the main crystals, and that was always felt like that. That's just one activation that was going to accumulate. And then all these gateways that had been hidden in the ground, our history was suffocated in the ground, and they kept us focused on the top, where the true history is a lie, And now you look at land everywhere you go, you look at mountains and go, what really is that? You know what I'm saying? You don't acknowledge what they tell you things are. You look deeper now and you pay attention to everything in a different way. And you're looking at everything. Like one of the big things is the salt lakes. And that was one of the things they're saying that is going to be an activation port of the salt lakes. The salt lakes are not just for form of, just a lake that's there. So they show me a lot of different things will happen there. And the biggest thing is with the giants, very close to that. And that's one thing I've looked and searched for a long time, that they showed me that part hasn't completely been in an activation process. And I did a prediction and I talked about the sound of a giant's voice in the sky. As you would hear the bells ring, you would also hear a giant's voice, and I think society, thinks that these are like just major cannibal giants and that's all they do. And no, they were very intelligent beings, and the Tartarians, and they were very protective and everything. So I mean, we're going to all this activation, and I think, Sean, if you stand behind everything, behind it, and you just view it and your soul's making the choice, instead of, I don't look at any of the history anymore. It doesn't acknowledge for me anymore because I know it doesn't add up. So then you start to look at things around you a different way. You're perceiving it different, the shapes of things, the way things feel. So that's the thing. We're all in this activation mode of this process.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's many things to continue activating people, and they're all the time, especially with their focus. Big thing with what we're talking about, with a big anchor that people can release that I tuned into to speed up the ascending process for the whole planet and our people, is all these Atlantean traumas. It's like a large amount of it. And there's all these energy harvester multidimensional predators attached to it to keep it going. And it's mostly needing healing energy, but like a specific type of healing energy that like has blueprints and programming that forms to the type of trauma that it can be gotten out of, like what you're talking about with Egypt, out of Hawaii, Egypt, and Teotihuacan, at least some of the places that people can go to get those healing codes and bringing them forth, and we're doing that now and bringing that to the collective so they get that cure and they can bring forth to their own healing trauma anchor and then bring that to the rest of the collective. So yeah, what have you been else have you been getting passionate about? You also had some images, and let me know if you want to bring those up.
Why don't you start with let's go through the Red Ruby Lake one first. You want to go with this one first? I think I sent you that one. Yeah, that one.
Sure, let me just bring it up for you.
Yeah, so that when people can, because this was always an activation point, especially with the Pleiadians, as they showed this form and this substance and this energy at the bottom of Antarctica that has been protected for a long time beneath these waters and levels. And so
I'm trying to find it.
It's
I saw.
I think I put it in your messenger.
I see a smaller one that has a bunch of different ones in it. Let me just bring that up.
Yeah, it's at the top. It's the same thing at the top I sent you, but it's This is the one you sent me. So mine's a little different. Yeah. So the cycle returns. So the Red Ruby Lake is an ancestor cycle of energy that flows beneath the surface, is hidden from the world, but is the path of eternal. So that was always going to be an activation point when I got this information from the Pleiadians, of that this has been protected for a long time and it's going to go into the sky. So you're a substance of water and then a substance of red in the sky. And bizarre for a red substance like this to go in the air and move all over the ocean, but it does, and we've seen it. And so, but the destination of this, they showed me the destination would be Arizona. It's last to create an energy to stay over that area of that. So we've seen this appear several times and then it goes away. So the monopoly of this and how it, as energy changes, then you see it again on the screen of Google and then it appears again. And and you see society kind of like, wow, this is kind of scary, but I don't feel that because I had the knowledge of knowing what it's doing, why it has its path, because and they told me, you're going to see red everywhere in the sky, and then this substance is going to create. So that's the whole thing about this. We're dealing with a lot of stuff that was not ever taught in school. And it's not, I don't think, Sean, it's our imagination on that process of, I think it's going back to memory that we had. And we think that someone else did all this. And then we have to recognize that we are the ones that did this, that started this, and we are coming back to finish it. That's what, that people are not recognizing. They always think that someone else, before us did this. I don't think so. I think we are the ones that activated things a long time ago. And so these ships from Antarctica come they're self-containing, that were in the ice in levels of plates, and then they self-contain themselves. They don't need anything. And that's the whole thing with Antarctica is when I heard, Mars and all this stuff, and Spirit goes, you think up? I'm like, no. And he goes, yeah, on the side. Everything's outside the ice. So, and that was the process of the layers of the ice. Each layer holds a secret, which we know it holds history beneath it. The surface, you have that recent layer, and then you have an old ancestor layer, and then you have the volcano layers beneath the fire. So everything is, it's all together. It all works as one together. And society separates everything because that's what, it makes the confusion process is you look at one singular thing and you think that is the one thing and you focus on that. And they're not putting this all together. It's all an activation process, all as one. Like the green underworld, I call it, which is these pure, it hasn't been touched by man. It hasn't been contaminated, and the nutrients that breathe and lie in the greens beneath, and that's the thing too, like the rainforest and all that stuff. There's history beneath that too. So all these pyramids, all these points on the earth are becoming in an activation process now. And it's all forgotten because where our memory was forgotten, where we stopped, and the memory went away. And now people think you're looking at past lives for everything. It's like, don't you think that you just left it undone for a reason, how this happened? Why we all know this,
So do you think it's like also a quarantine into the mind so that new can be created?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
They, and that's the whole thing. They erased it, our memory, and that's the whole thing. It's just that knowing inside of knowing something or being, well, because you travel too. And you just like, how do I know all these paths without even ever touching the ground of your memory that you remember, but you find things and know things. And we think it's just someone else. And that's what they want you to think. We're here creating. We are creators in this realm. And that's what they didn't want you to know. this process. So we're in an activation. The planet is changing. I mean, that's where I'm going to show you. When I did this drawing, this was the most important process with this when I did this 3AI ship, or the Boyd, they call it, because it has to do with our planet being activated. The colors of the pinks and the blues and everything is gold, and the transformation, it's changing. And then we go into this dimensional process. And then this ship is just about an activation of the whole planet. It's all energy. It's all frequency, changing everything. And we're waiting for that one star that symbolizes the new beginning of the golden age. There's a star that's going to come that symbolizes that time that is being created now. And that's the process, So all the colors and everything is going to change what we're seeing in the sky. So that's an important.
That's a cool concept, bringing in ships that are activators for
Yes.
planetary bodies. What do you know about the occupants of in the species of that ship and the method they use for activation? I will look around for other ways that are in that similar route.
So I'll tell you, when I first got on there, I'm like, it was so bright. That was the whole thing about this. I'm like, this is, it's almost like the med beds. They showed me beings that you have to have a certain energy to be near this type of energy. You know what I'm saying? You just can't. So you got to be able to deal with frequency, deal with energy, move energy, sustain it and hold it. So they're very tall beings, but in a harmless conscience. It is all about activation. That it activates everything and brings in that network system that we had on the ground a long time ago, the pyramids, the ley lines, all of this stuff. And their key is to activate it again. So we're going to get this. Everybody thinks it's, this 3D light process, and it's not. It's going to be a very simple process because everything on Earth will be activated. All it is bringing it back online. It just starts with that charge. So, and that's what they showed me. There's nothing of harm here. It is all of activation. And so when I see these beings, let me show you something. Let me grab it real quick. Because to describe that type of energy,
sure.
When I made these crystalline beings, right? So, and they moved energy through their mouth, and they're all crystalline, and they carried these big crystals with them, when I drew this. And everything flows. That's the whole thing. So you want to know what's on that ship, on how everything is like a crystalline. You know what I'm saying? And it
beautiful.
So yeah, so this is actually the creator right here. They showed
you drew that? That's
yes,
lovely scenery too. I love the mountainscape.
Yeah, I drew these. So, and that's the thing. It's showing the example of how everything works. We're going into the crystalline. We're going into this process. You know what I'm saying? And that's how things work. And then when I drew these a couple years ago, people are like, I don't understand this because nothing looks like that. But I have to draw exactly what I get. Right now, it makes sense, right?
Yeah. Like this is kind of like how the concept of people think of what it's like to be in a higher dimensional being state,
right?
Like different expansionary points of consciousness and management. Them like some in heavenly realms type of places, rivering down light energy of support and abundance and higher dimensional frequencies. And I'm reading, there's some ships out there that are bringing in higher dimensional energy to raise it up, as well as free the consciousness of the people. And this is a great mission for people to do, to like connect and see if they can track through their soul, their DNA lineage, certain higher dimensional beings that may not know this place or may not know the importance, as well as gaining support for contacting their soul family that hey, I'm here, we're doing this now, come join us. And we can increase the amount of beings that are adding higher dimensional energies to this planet and increase the speed of its growth. And I think everyone out there, this is a big mission you can do. And I'm going to see after the couple of days this meter tick up of all these beings coming in, and I'll know it was you guys. So thank you for anyone that chooses to help us with this.
Yeah, so it's all about, we are podiums of light placed in the world exactly where we're supposed to be in an activation process. We're all placed at the right time. And there's they show me there's 12 underground councils of these portal areas, and that's where the main crystal's in the center of everything. So that's the whole thing about this. A lot has changed in the way of how we're looking at everything and what is energy. So right off Earth, before I would get into any of the key areas, I would see the four keepers, which are, you can call them watchmen or whatever. And they were always native. And they always showed me that, and they always, when I saw them, it was always behind a tree and creating energy, developing energy, but guarding everything that needed to be seen. And then we deal with, I already believe that there's a plasma shield over Earth. And I already know, I could sense that it's in the waters already. It's already going to change our air, because once that real plasma starts to come into our body, you're going to heal different. This is the thing. Everybody's fixated on the med beds. I don't think a lot of us chosen ones already know how to activate it when we have that grid open. So again, the med beds give you a focus to look at, right? Everybody's fixated on it's a device, but it's already in us. What's in those machines already in layers we already have to activate on our own. So what's the grid? The med bed is the planet if it goes back into its activation process.
Wow.
And that's what they showed me.
Yeah, it's a reflection, right?
Yes. The negative cannot breathe in this. They show that it'll self-combust. What does that tell you? Everything is pure of light, pure frequency, pure of energy. The negative cannot sustain that. So it's just interesting, if I put the med beds in that, they're like, energy. They go straight to energy everywhere. Activation process. So they're like, one day you're just going to wake up and everything and your body's going to change. Because at that point, you either accept light that moves through your frequency or you don't. So you got the NPCs that won't allow anything like that to happen. Won't even open up to that because it's the same program. So that's not even going to compute. It's not even going to enter their process, And here we are, like this picture, and this is the thing. When you accept energy, it flows through you. It protects you. And these are the barriers around us. That's why it's so hard to see light. You know what I mean? We're going into this again. So, and that's why I think, because you find artifacts, some of the stuff you found, you're looking at their form. Yes. And your form that you found, and, wondering their own energy into the crystal line process again. We're just going back into that energy again. And they tried to always turn those type of beings into a negative process because they don't want you to enrich yourself in the knowledge. They want you to fear it. Yeah. And that's what's the change of how we all look at things. And that's where we have to sit back after this actually shuts down and go, we have to relearn everything of saying, well, forget about all that now. Let's start over, because that's what you're going to have to do, because nothing, the history of our world was even put out there. So yeah, we're in an activation process. And that's why, I mean, the plasma is the biggest thing that I'm focused on right now, because I can feel it. I'm doing meditation for it. They say, it's going to be in the water. It's already, as those old, the underground waters resurface and have the age. I believe that some of this water that you're seeing that's disappearing, and because they showed me how California an opening would open off the coast there, and then all that water would go down deep into plates. But they're not in an earthquake process plate. It'd be completely going down deeper. And I believe that this water looking at the planet in a recycled process of water is in layers. There's oceans underneath the oceans, and we're finding that all the time. And so are they going to recycle this process? Are we going to see? Because you see in Antarctica, there's 2 different types of water right by each other, and they react different colors, different bases. So it's just interesting how you just want to sit back and observe and learn from it and just accept it and not be in fear and be in the stillness of observing.
Yeah, and with the plasma, all these, if people see the tendril maps of like brain mapping the universe, and it looks like neurons and these higher dimensional plasmas that can come in and leach here, and these currents and ley line grids of that consciousness, the cloud that we are receiving to greater states. Some of the bigger things to activate that are still being stopped that people can work on are the Earth's imprisoned plasma body, so it can emit out in the field and not just be mostly contained to the core. And with stolen authority, stolen abilities from like different catastrophes from different authorities, so people can take that and power back and pull the rug out from underneath the dark side's ability to do that, as well as this frequency fence that repels plasma from the sun, and then make it so that we can integrate that more and light us up. And you talked about also with the water. I feel like there's these, like what you're going into, these pivotal points that people can find around the planet, etc., that are big activators, more so than the other parts of the grid, like a hidden core body of water system that's like the core of all the water grids on the planet. And people can remote view these and find them as you earn authority to interact with it at a distance, as well as go physically, though it's going to be very camouflaged, so what do
those look like
with the mountain grid? Well, currently the core, I believe, is on a very secure, very hard to get to island, but you can find it because I believe your source has access codes to interact with it, and then find out what it needs, such as what it's stopping it, which is going to be things suppressing it, trying to attach to it, things to uncreate, things to surrender into surrender into your source, like your trust falling into your source ocean and taking it along with you, and then it burning away out of existence, as well as some empowerment light shining into it to ramp it up its power. And same thing with the hidden core for mountain control grid. Trees, which will go to hidden world trees that are still existing on the planet, that are some of the pivotal, like, grand consciousness, and not the ones that have been cut down, but those still can be restored too.
So what if I told you I knew where the Fountain of Youth was?
I believe you. I've tuned into multiple of the youth currents that come up from the surface. So, some that I've had to move because dark energy passes.
Yes. So when I do Humble Healing 3, when they showed me the Fountain of Youth, they said the water's below and the water's above. And they're like, Jen, it's in the waters above, untouched in a cat. And so to get there, you have to go in a clear water. Okay. And this water above has memory. It's like when you dive into it, you can remember the memory. You know what I'm saying? Like it's familiar to you. Then you go under water into a cavern, like a mountain upside down. Then you get into this dry cavern, untouched by man. So a lot of these natural rock substance and all that stuff has been preserved. And in these caverns, there's certain areas where you can put the soul and filter it through, and you could feel it through you as you're going through it. But the one thing is there's a tree has its own water, and the water is an emerald green, the nutrients. So the bark is a nutrient that is enriched, and then it's around water. And the tree has gold particles upon it in its own cystasis process. So the water is more of a greenish, an emerald green, So when I put people through that meditation, they're just like, I don't even want to leave. They're just like, let me just stay here. So when I do the meditation, they're in two places at one time, but once they feel it, it impacts them in a different way, and they can feel it move, because you're dealing with two energies. One's this water, an energy that's in the water, and an energy that's on top of them at the same time, feeling. But yeah, and they said this has been untouched, and it's always been the waters above.
Oh, that's beautiful. Reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean Fountain of Youth thing, and also things with Ponce de Leon. I've heard also stories where Alexander the Great found some things that amplified immortality. So I think, there's a bunch of different ways, and I think there are these secret locations that are hard to get to and protect.
They are, because you look at it and never think that would be in that process of that. You wouldn't think you'd have to go through water to get to that, and come into a dry cavern, and there it is.
Have you heard of that guy that went missing because he went in a submarine and went in the Gulf of Mexico, and then he found another layer of water underwater that was like its own type of substrate, and then he published the film and disappeared. There's some secret crazy shit here. There's gravitational anomalies, levity energy that makes waterfalls appear on big tall mountains, and these portals and things to other realms, and these hidden islands that are invisible, turtle islands that a mile long, giant turtles, the dragon turtles, the Ao, there's a lot of mythos all around the planet for those that are moving islands, and that's some crazy stuff.
So that is true, and because I did a prediction on that, and they said as things change on this earth, where there were islands there will not be again, but there will be new islands that appear. And that's why they always show me our earth is like a Rubik's Cube. And this is one of the pictures they show, because it starts on the ice, and then has these plates, and then volcanoes, and then ships, and then trees and water. Everything's a plate, as it shifts and changes. And these are ships in Antarctica that they've showed that would come out of that area a long time ago. So that I drew this. And then this is the Ruby Lake. But the whole process is this, that's the thing. They keep us focused on what's going on the top. And all our history is beneath us. Hidden so deep. Covered
and there's a secret government that's controlling people too with that. And then all the hidden stuff, because it's like a labyrinth, maze, security system, and I mean, it gets. At least for me, Earth seems big and is deep, and there's a bit of a security system too, with certain beings in inner Earth. And then when you get past that, there's a lot of treasures of rare stuff that you'd want to go visit if you could. Oof. I agree.
Yeah, it is. And
Oh,
that's,
and the new island thing, totally. Totally agree with that. There's
yeah,
evidence for that too. I have a friend, and I'll mention later. He like goes into the Mandela effect quite heavily, and he drew up like a map like a while ago of the Earth, and he filled in every space he could of every island, even fractally. He like had it as a digital map of all the different languages, words for love, and he filled it to the brim, like no spaces missing. And then he had it stored for a while, and then later on, he dug it up and he found it switched around. There were spaces, there were islands that didn't exist on the map. There were blank dots. There were things with empty space that didn't have love, and things that shifted around. And he was like, "Whoa, what?" And so that's a little bit of an evidence for the Mandela effect of the new islands coming into existence, or old islands that went and teleported at like Lemurian Atlantis and leapfrogged forward in time to a point where they could survive catastrophes as well as get past drama, to points when we're coming back into opening our realities to more sentience. And I'm seeing that come into existence all the time as well. At Atlantis Fall, there seemed to be a bunch of uncreational stuff and a reset of a hologram thing. It was weird. And some of the islands were still being quarantined out of void that I tuned into and being cleared off, and we're fishing them back into reality. And so there's definitely islands coming back, and also teleporting islands, which is
yep,
that thing like in Lost that they talked about.
right. Because they're
The show.
dimension, and then there are plates that were there before, and then they reappear, and that's what they show. For a time, they're there, and then they disappear again, and that's what they showed me on on that process. And you're gonna, when we get this major storm that comes in, and when this happens to California, that's the first thing that I'll be looking for is these islands that'll appear. Because as the water shifts on that coast and goes down deep into the core of Earth, it's a process. And then as that water appears again, those islands come with that connection. So it's going to be interesting. So
And it's like Skull Island where there's storms that protect it, and sea
right,
monsters, and then like the Wonder Woman thing where it's hard to perceive, or High Brazil where there's like a mist that comes in and it's seen and then goes away, and different weird spatial anomalies, because some of the, like you were saying, some of these places are in a different dimension or a higher dimension, and it's waiting for periods in time or people that can perceive it, or the greater sending back and healing of the planet back
right,
to where the veils release and the quarantine releases, and we can perceive more.
exactly. Yeah, so it's changing in such a different way, and then that's the whole thing. As we get up every morning, it's every morning is not the same. It's not the same day. Your body's not feeling the same way every day. You know that something's changing within you because you're accepting a different reality. That's the whole thing. It's this slower concept, but even as you look at the sky at night, and it's reacting with your energy, on every possibility. It is the concept of acceptance of those thoughts that are in our head, like I said, that knowledge that we had before, and everybody puts in the process is like someone else was doing this, someone else was creating this. Like, how about we're already here, we're the chosen, and they want to look at it as you were chosen to be here. You're chosen to come back and finish it. Well, we started, that's the thing. And so that's the whole process, is this, when these type of memories that come back into those each individuals, and we want to put it as past lives, and like, how about put it all together and have all this information in front of you? You have access to it, because that is the way, as a creator, as we are supposed to be able to access it instantly. But what kills it is the doubt. And what kills it is the left brain. Pulling in the flesh needs. You don't have this ability. You don't have this control. And this is one of the things how I talk and what I do to people. And I told a friend, once you get to the point you don't care what people think on how your mindset works, you're walking through everything, because you're not concerned with that. And so, and that's why when opening your third eye, and, when I teach class and stuff like that, I teach it very raw in a way. This is like, as soon as you doubt, you kill it. But as soon as you get into it right away and you just trust it, it's going to stay consistent, because that process is getting more solid by the instant that it comes in, the instant you trust it. But the instant that you doubt it, it's gone. That's the problem. That's that ego a little bit, And if you just see that you're just this vessel of light filtering the information through you, you look at things different.
Yeah, and the ego grid and programming
Yes.
the boundaries around people is going beyond, what's necessary, and into quarantining to a safety survival mechanism, to where it just keeps people asleep as energy batteries. And I find this course of ways to resolve that, which is good. But if you want, you can also explain more about this, or and each one of these, as well as I can bring up any picture other than that.
So the Pleiadians, that's the whole thing about this, is they are literally the guardianship of everything, and they are the glue that I think surround the vessel of Trump. And we're going into these regions, and we're going into councils. We are not going back into government. Everything's going to be run on regions. So with the Pleiadians, it's they are a different type of guardianship to make sure things are implemented, but also there's no wars, in this process. And we get back into the collective of the energy in this process. That's important. And that's the most important process. I'm trying to find the page that I don't think.
There's also a thing we can go into that I was tuning to, and I've been waiting for somebody to do a show with me on it that, can handle the topic like yourself. Got some artifacts, as well as I've tuned into some various races that are willing to help more in disclosure, as well as ascension at a greater pace, especially if there's a great equal exchange commerce.
Right.
And this little guy is one, and he seems to interact with the panther. He's a little panther baby, and this is found in a giant UFO artifact. This species seems very nice. They have depictions of them frolicking with people and giving gifts and stuff. Yeah, animals. And they seem very nice and willing to help. It seems the goal in the thing that will amplify their ability to trade with us seems to be through the DNA, remote viewing through the mystery school of the DNA with them, because most of the artifact species have added their genetics to humans, and the little mystery school in there. And there's some big block on communication from different species to us that it's much easier for us to resolve on our end because of the super hybrid, unlimited capacity of our species. and then release that to where it amplifies communication and more people being able to see, because there's ships all the time in the sky, but most of them are invisible to our perception. And when people do the infrared goggles, they see a lot more all the time.
Well, there's two dimensions going on when you're in the sky. And that's where you get, if you look at night and you get that light movement in your eye and then the dark. And I always see it all the time because it looks like everything's being copied. And it's two different dimensions. But once you start to trust that and then you start to see them come in very quickly, that's the thing that I notice. It's the way our eyes focus and how we see things. But when you see that mirror in, and not in the physical, but it's in movement of shade, and then you can see a change in a very strong process with that. So, and that's why I tell people, go outside, at night and look up and stay in that stillness. Get all the clutter out of your mind and just sit in that stillness. You're going to see a reaction from that, because that's how they're going to react in your calmness and your stillness. And ask them to show their original form. So your conscience can accept whatever form that is. You got to get that 3D, and that's the whole thing I tell my students. I go, get out of the 3D. Don't even think in the 3D. Don't visualize in 3D. You need to focus on something being raw and true to what it is. And there will be less confusion with that. With the verification. So with the Pleiadians, the information was related to me. So it watches over the planet, works with the circles of the guardians, which is the keepers, the watchers, all of them. I mean, it's all in the cycle together. They ask for, and that's the whole thing about humanity. It's there for humanity to access and do the right thing. The Pleiadians are waiting for humanity to do the right thing. And they're patient. That's the thing with this process. And I do believe we're down to the final stage, and everything in the sky is going to be red, which is going to be, but red's a powerful color of change, of implementing change, of strength. Red brings in strength too. So the cycle of the activation and transformation is there. And that's the thing. So we're in these final stages of, and then the sky above is going to sound like traffic. You're going to just hear these larger sounds, but you're going to get to a point where you accept it. It's always been there. One of the things that they told me a long time ago is when the firmament actually comes down and we actually see the real space, you know what I'm saying? Not the phony stuff they put up there. That the chunks of the aqua ice that comes from that, it's another thing, just like the red ruby lake. As it dries and forms it'll form into a solid. As it's in a liquid form, it's very rubbery and kind of a mushy type of movement. So they said that later on in life that energy from that firmament will be of value. And, a normal person thinks the value of how much money is it worth. You have to look at it, what it's able to do, what can it form? Can we use this for a source of energy? What do we do with it? It just shows me that when that dawn comes. So it's going to be interesting how that actually happens in this process.
Yeah, and with the Pleiades, looking into the different timeline variants of like what amplifies their ability to work here, and it seems they're sending a lot of support, but there's things preventing us from integrating and accepting it. It seems the core of resolving that is freeing and opening our heart, and then doing that for the collective consciousness. And the things that are closing it off are in the ego and the lower self. And it goes with having our higher self and our love hugging around the ego and giving it love and safety, and giving it what it needs so that it releases its shields, and then stepping that up to the greater collective consciousness of humanity. And then we will start receiving all these great, larger amounts of these higher frequencies that are assisting us.
Yes. And one of the things when I go above Earth in a collective and I see them, this is the first thing I tell people. You have to give your heart out unconditionally. There's no circumstances on this situation. It's unconditional. So once I tell them, the first thing is push it out. When you push it out and you purely give it, then you feel that exchange move in motion. Because that's what the higher council and the energy is. It's a share of the collective. It's a share of energy. It's a share of love. And that's pure love. There's no conditions of it. It's just pure. And that's the thing, when I see any being like that's, it's almost automatic in my mind to give it away, because you're not in that process of the ego. Like, it's not like where you go for. That's the thing. So when you give it immediately, the abundance that comes back from that is so important. Because Earth's love is on circumstances, and that's the thing. They don't understand. It's not on the circumstance of what you get or what you get out of it, or if it's too hard. That's not the way it is. That's not the way animals are either. It's unconditional.
That's a good point. Yeah, and so yeah, if you want to bring up, because I know you got really good graphics, I can share some of the graphics if you want to explain them, and tell me if you got an order you want it in. I'll just like
Oh, it
bring up.
doesn't matter. Just whatever you get.
Yeah, we'll just throw. Okay, we'll throw it up. Let's see here. Okay, here's this.
Yes, and that has to do with all these great, with the crystal line, with the planets. I have to grab my phone on that one. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to grab that so I can go over that one with you. And that's the, everything, like every mountain, everything is involved with this process, and that's the thing that people don't understand, that everything is connected. Let me go into this one. So you're looking at the sound, and that's the biggest thing, the sound, the harmony, the frequencies. And that's why I tell people to stay in the stillness and this quietness, and you push out the chatter, because, it is releasing. The animals hear it first. And they said that they would come down from the mountains, come down to the streets, and they're the first ones that are going to be in that tone of that vibration. So the animals awaken, are drawn to the podium of light placed across the earth, and gather the safety within the light. So, what? I think that is an amazing thing to witness when nature, and whales are a big source, and dolphins are this, that lead the ocean in this process. And then the land animals will always be, I always see the elephants and the lions and, cattle in that way too. So there will be in every environment, the airways of the air, eagles, doves, all kinds of stuff is going to be kind of like a modern days Noah's Ark. Where are they all going? Because they're following the sound and the frequency that resides in them, and so, but also that warns humanity of what is changing, where the frequency is going. And then the water activation, which goes with the plasma process, that activates that. And then a purity of it, a goodness of it is the part of the process, is the oceans glow, water rinses, and in that healing frequency of that process. So that, as our waters are contaminated, you wonder, are we going to go through this big process, or something going to happen overnight? They're going to change like everything else. So the skies will sing, the atmosphere fills, the harmony waves, the light sounds, the skies become alive, the colors of the song. And the song of the hum, and that's always been creator's song, is the hum, and then in that process, and then the sun changes, which we get the original sun, which we get the original vibration that heals our soul, which is that yellow sun. These are just lights. So, and then the negative, all of this, when this process happens, the negative cannot live within it. This system, after all this process, they will self-combust, or they will dismantle, or they will fall to the ground. They can't sustain this energy. So that for fear, darkness, distort, dissolve in the light, and unite. So it all comes back online and all is activated. And that's why I tell people when they show me that sun, we all drop to our knees in a way of like, amazing. Such purity and goodness through that energy. There's an emotion that's going to hit us in that energy. It's a bliss that they say. It's a bliss that you feel through your own spirit. And when that blitz comes in that way and humanity unites like that, at that moment, everything changes. Nothing negative can live off that.
Nice. I agree with this stuff. I'm glad you're tuning into it. The sound, I would say there are frequency origins on the planet, such as like when people track the Schumann resonance. Science at least acknowledge one into the permanent lightning storms that go on that you can like look up. Though there are more, and there are other frequency sources, and those can be healed because they have a consciousness and a purpose and an expansion with them, and then they can flow greater. The animal awakening thing, that was a little hard for me to tune into, like the core of those. If people want to make that spur up in conscious growth and evolution at a faster pace, there seems to be a light that comes from source, and the source of all that is a river that can flow into their heart. And especially if it's flowing into the peak of each species consciousness, as if, people talk about founder races like the dragons or the angels or the Sasquatch, or like the unicorns for horses, the sun birds or the firebirds, phoenixes for birds, things like that there's like really high dimensional top management for each species. And if those are restored and brought in that light through their heart at a greater level, and the things blocking the river from supplying them with much abundant amounts of energy, empowerment, and resilience to overcome their challenges, then they will flow to everything else. And we talked about the water activation, the skies. I love the I've been hearing about that in movies and all these things, with the aurora borealis being seen everywhere more as the plasma fields unite. And it definitely seems like a sun and earth, masculine and feminine unity, without filters.
Mm-hmm.
As the veils of that come down too. The sun changes. If people want to ignite the sun's unfoldment, besides like a big impact that comes down from all the sources, down to the multiverse, down to the center of the galaxy, down to the center of the center of the universe, down to the center of the galaxy, and then relays to a bunch of stars in empowerment. There is the Earth and the solar system, the sun took on a big, fell on a grenade, wounding to prevent worse destruction for us in like big catastrophes and spirit invasions that came in. And there is a big chain of realms that were invaded, and even dark forces that invaded into heaven, specific types of heaven realms. Like Earth has like millions of heaven realms, but or the sun has some too, and it had some invaded from a chain of heaven realms that got invaded and their authority, high level authority, stolen. And so if those heaven realms of the sun are restored, then grand amounts of light will come out. But go ahead.
Yeah, that sounds very accurate. Wow. Yeah, and it's just these, for you, Sean, I think like when you find these items that you find, it's almost like you knew where they were, but your soul's like, no, you don't. But you do, because why are you finding them? That's the whole thing. That people don't understand. It's not, they got these happenstance situations, but it was meant for you to be there, to go back and to remember and know why is that right there? Why, that's the whole thing, and you find it. So that's the thing. I mean, it's meant to go, you're meant to go in this path, but you're meant to find more, bigger in this process, So you just ask yourself, okay, I know the memory, so open the door. I know it's me that put this here. Now, how do I get back into that energy again?
And the celestial keys.
Yeah, so I always talk about the keys that Spirit showed me a long time ago, and that's, they have different reasons what they do and everything. And with these keys, it is, you got Antarctica, the White House. Whew, that's a big one. Grand Canyon, Arizona, Colorado, UK, Jerusalem, the Vatican. These are all Salt Lakes, Greenland, and Hawaii.
So are these like key activation points for the grid?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and this is all about alignment. When those are alignment, they're into the activation. When is into the activation goes into the grid lines, which are, your ley lines. In these activation, they will appear. They say that, that there's things that we think as we look, they're not there, but they are there because we're looking at it in the 3D. And that's the thing that I think is going to be interesting, that people think, well, this isn't here and this isn't here. I'm like, it is there. There's so much stuff around us, but they can't see it. Just like with pyramids, they show me, if you put 3 pyramids together, if you look at them, and they're lined up together, there's a compartment above it that holds stuff. So we don't see that. We can't reach that. We're not focused on that. We're not told that.
Can anyone form a key for the keyhole, or do you need to do a specific thing? What do you suggest for people in those strategic spots?
You have to be at a different conscience level to see these. Because when they first showed me one of the keys that I carried, it showed me in this plate of the circle motion, and they showed me the watchers are on the outside, Jen. They're like, they can't see these. I'm like, well, I can see this. And he goes, yeah, they are looking, but they don't know that it's right in front of them. And they were showing that as an example, so that was the interesting thing. So it's how you look at things.
What do you suggest people do with the plasma shield? Can they empower it?
Well, I do. I've taught a meditation, and this is the thing. Where the main part or the port of the plasma is in Arizona. I mean, this. I'm like, they showed me because that had to be at a certain temperature of coolness, of nurturing, of calmness. It's underground, and these caverns, if you notice that all over the world, that's where they put them. where anything needs to be sacred, they put it in that where the nutrients can grow, and pure water and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it shows me this calmness. I can actually send that to you of what it looks
Sure.
like in a cavern in that process. So I started doing these meditation, and then when they do the meditation, the thing is they come out and I feel like this extra barrier, because the soul always needed the plasma. It was always together before. So what happens when you go into that experience, the soul starts to remember the plasma. That's the rings. Those are the first keys, the rings that go up and in the activation process. Let me find the plasma for you. So this expresses the air as it changes. I'm going to send this to you. And this is the plasma, how it is below. I just sent it to
What
you.
are the different sources of plasma that you found out that we can ignite and make stronger in empowerment?
So there's a thin layer of it that's already always been here. They show me different plasma, as you see the picture, that activates in the waters, certain waters, but it can't be contaminated. That's the whole thing with this process. And that's why everything is like hidden. It can't be contaminated with something that's not going to activate in the same way. It just sent you that in Facebook. The actual plasma, and then the how it looks in a cavern. You would see it in how you step into it. You're stepping into it. It's put in a coating around you, and they say if you can get into this process, it doesn't matter if you're in the 3D. This is universal, so you can, as if you were in the universe, using it in the same way, because you're in a contained area and allowing the cells to create and become one again with the plasma, with the barrier. And how I recognize this, I did a remote viewing a couple years ago, and then they showed me these corridors, and they had like about 50 on each corridor on the ship, of how they kept them in stasis. And I recognized it, and I was like, hot and cold. And I'm like, that's the plasma. They're like, yes. So there's this rich plasma that can put you in a stasis, right? And then what you recognize with it, you get the energy of this hot and cold all the time with a balance. That's what's interesting about it. So I created, and as their steps is I created this meditation that works with this plasma. And then I have clients, they just check it and they feel it around them because it went back to the memory of having it like it did before.
Nice. And what's your perception on the physics of the plasma body and amplifying its ability to create greater charge and density? I found both in the heart and the solar plexus, there's a igniting factor, and especially with the yin and the yang and the circuitry, and there's
So it shows
things that
me
can
in
go
the
density
gut.
from environment or internally and emit. Go ahead.
Cells first. So they show me this bluish as it goes into the cells, and then it creates, and it gets into the cells into memory. So there is not one complete form that it can go into once it gets into the cells of the body as an activation. So then it puts that's where it creates that barrier. So it would be, the gut is the first process that I see, and then they're showing me it goes into the cells, and then it goes into the process of the pineal gland.
Nice. The lower Dantian and the upper Dantian. Nice.
Yes. So, and we can all access, we can all get into this because our again, another memory that they took away. But as those two come together again, it weeds itself into a barrier again. And you really know it because you could feel that hot and cold at the same time working as one. It's very interesting.
Nice. Okay. And let me know if any of these images.
So that's go back to the water one. So I'll explain this. So as our world changes, you see how the trees suck up this new plasma that comes in. Everything is refreshed. Our cells are refreshed. The air is refreshed. The sun's refreshed. So when it gets to that, that complete capacity of the plasma, we're going to feel renewed in a different way. That's what they showed me. And it actually brings in the H2O on that stuff. And it, that's the whole thing, that how are we really going to cleanse the water on this earth because it's been such in contamination? So is that going to happen instantly? That's the whole thing. We're thinking too small on this process. I mean, I think there's a bigger process that we're going to go into with this.
Right. And the people research the fourth state of water and being able to bring mass out of air and the different levity effects, and how science is being suppressing on water tech and what it can really do and how you can purify it, and then these frequency generations we can do, as well as psionics, and then going into with the greater how to revive water or bring in through water portals greater consciousness to inhabit the what people call dead water or less lively water.
Right. So one of their major creatures is going to activate in this water is the whales, and the dolphins are going to activate different in this, and they show sound from them will change. They'll give you a warning of the water has changed in a positive aspect of things. So, the air is clean, the tree is going to rise, the earth is going to remember, the original design, restoration, replace, and, so that's the whole process. The decay of it will disappear. So, and that's why the animals are so sensitive, overly sensitive in knowing the change that comes. But also the mountains react in the way of that is, another way that's going to react too. So, and that's why Spirit has said, you stay in the stillness now, you stay in the quietness now, and you listen, and you get you get in nature, and you pay attention to how nature is reacting to all of this.
Interesting. How do these plates work? What are they made of? What made them? What do you think?
So the plate alignments, they're and it's all like they're like teeth. They can separate, but they can come together as a frequency. But it's and I believe that sometimes that we think we're seeing ships, and sometimes I think we're seeing the plates.
Interesting. So the moving ones, or just like stationary in the sky?
The plate,
like they're alive.
Is the first frequency. The plate of the remembrance is the second frequency. The plate of the alignment is the third frequency. The plate of the activation is the fourth frequency, and the plate of the transcension is the fifth. So it all again is not one can do without the other of these frequencies. Then they've told me, you're going to see, and that's where if you go back to the keys in that type of activation, just go through a couple. I think you pulled it up earlier.
Sure. And these plates, that they would be like stationary in vision, like a big mothership?
You'll see them in the sky. You will see them.
Which one of these keys?
Keep going.
Okay, wait.
Nope.
Something happened.
You had it earlier.
Where did it go? I'll get it. No. Okay, there.
No, keep going.
Did you say the
Next
keys,
one, next
right?
one, next one. Go to the next one. There you go.
All right.
So that's the kind of, see the color, the blue, the activation process, and how these lights are energies, knows that the direction it can go in, and that's the whole process of this. This is the activation process. And they showed me this situation, this picture shows over in New York. There's a major process that's going to happen in New York where it's about bearing the witness of all this stuff. Because it's important to know what has happened and what's going to be dismantled, and that's about bearing the witness. So the activation, again, is plasma's involved in this, and energy's involved in this, and then the activation process. That's the whole thing. Is just people, when they look at the sky, they just think, it's just a sky. It's not. It's everything's in layers. Everything is connected. Everything's in plates, and that's why when I look at night and I don't think ship right away, I think, are these the keys, or are this a different type of ship? Are these plates? What are they? So, and
Are they only stationary, or do they move?
They
I've
move.
seen giant. Okay, so they
move.
would be
And
like
then,
alive,
yeah,
or got a conscious control.
they can be in different origins and then come back together. But also, if you look at any symbolism on a council, it's always in a circle motion, right? And everything, if you look at these, they're like everything has to be clicked the right way, the right frequency before it. And there's always, and on them, at the edge of them, there's always this symbolism of writing around it. So everything has to be precise, and it can be confusing sometimes when it comes to I try to look at the drawings, because one symbol means a sentence on all of it. So I have one design that has the writings within it. So so these can be right in front of you, and you just don't know,
That makes sense.
It's all
How many do you think there are?
They have 5. They keep telling me, and I've asked over, and they're like 5, 5, 5. So it's like they're very specific on the 5.
Okay. And did you want to say anything and explain these other images below it? Golden City,
The
the
Golden
Watchers.
City, which is hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the frequency to align. It is not built by human hands. It rises in the conscience and reaches to the keys. The keys, again, the plates, which goes up. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole thing. And then the tree, which aligns with the keys too. Everything aligns with an activation, all combined together. We're so used to an activation as one singular process or one compartment, and it's not that way. Everything's going to activate at the same time, and the earth is reacting in that way. And then you have imprisonment of life is freed, so they can fly. Inner peace needed to leave, we are released, and the balance is returned. And that tells me that everything will be pure and good again. So.
Interesting. What is your perception on the Watchers? Aren't they multiple species? Because like beings that watch, right? Neutral, or
Oh yeah, they watch, but they do. I think they're different origins too.
Right.
At different times, but very strong strength that comes from them, and very much a strong knowledge that is there, that you can sense and feel that. And I believe that they are here now. and they are aligned to these keys and these plates in a very accurate way.
Okay, and the keys are you talking about the keyholes or like in what's? So I'm a little confused.
Okay, if you look at the
Who
tree,
has the keys?
okay, I saw the keys many years ago. So the keys are what we went back to that picture. Okay.
Is it a location with the key, like you were saying, like key locations, or
How the keys were activated, certain events on this earth had to happen. So a circular motion, and then as soon as these events happened, I saw these plates would drop out. Okay. And that can explain it in a different way but there's 5. Okay. There's 5 plates, there's 5 keys, and then they all line up to an activation process. So as this happens,
is the key in the location, like with a keyhole, and do you turn the key, or is it just you're using the symbology?
It's symbology.
Okay.
There's no 3D key process.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's never.
Yeah, not 3D. Like,
Yeah.
But I've also had energetic keys in
Yes.
some locations. So as well.
Exactly. So when everything is aligned, so it's gonna, and that's what they show me in the center of them is a crystal on each level, and then that light surges through all of them. And that's how it's activated. One balances the other on all these process, so, and that was the thing when I got these keys, I got confused because I saw these natives, and I went around for 2 years, and I'm like, no one knows about these. And then I talked to natives. They're like, oh my. And then Spirit finally said, Jenny, outside the atmosphere, they're up there. I'm like, well, you could have saved me a lot of time searching here for 2 years. So yeah. So, because you know how it is. They present stuff that's very complicated, and you're trying to put it together like a puzzle. So, and you have to have patience with the whole process of it. So, it is acknowledgement on each level. And as your conscience changes, you're able to perceive these higher levels and view this, because it is about our soul accepting these different dimensions and how it works and functions. But your conscious has to get to a certain level of that acceptance.
Did you want me to stop in any particular picture?
So okay. These are the first. If you see the symbolism, that was the first drawing I did of these those plates, keys, because that's what they showed. They said they're all activated one energy together, and they move as one together. So I was trying to diagram of how they work. So there's probably 5 or 6 different drawings I have of them, but the point was it's all about activation. And I think I had a friend, and he goes, he got a picture he was outside. He goes, I think these are your keys, Jen. And they were different colors, and they showed the different frequencies of different colors. And it was pretty interesting. Because Sean, I like to get this stuff, but I like the verification. You know what I mean? You always want to you want it verified. I'm very, very determined on that stuff to get it verified before, we get to a certain process on this. Okay. So, and I think the major process is, is just look to the sky for all this activation. Look to the sky for all of this to happen. Well, the oceans too, but it's all in that process. We're going back to memory.
Okay. Here, I'll bring up another image real quick for you.
You said you had some items you were talking about too? So this is the 3A. This is that ship, but I put it in a 5D process. It's the same ship. But the thing is the activation of the planet, right? And this other picture was showing the inside of the ship, how the sun was bright, okay? And it was really different in there is the fact they showed not one corner leads to an end. And that was a complex situation. I was like, what are you saying here? So it's not leveled, but it's even, and then gravity doesn't change it in that way. So, and then there's a, dimensional door that goes through it too, that it can go anywhere. And then it had carried its own sun. And that's why that bright energy with it was interesting. And then a tree was a part of that process. So it's just interesting how it showed me that. So not, everything's in a circle motion and nothing ends.
Interesting. So is it igniting the plasma core of the Earth, or what do you, because I remember seeing this image before, it was very powerful.
So I talked about this on Sasha Stone. I brought this one on there, because this is the same as this. Okay. So you have that energy here, which is as it comes in dimensional, right? So then it activates the planet, and then the energy from here, showing you that other picture of that circle of what this kind of looks inside and how it activates everything. So,
Nice.
So the whole process, it's all connected. It's done this before in many universes of activation. And so that circle with the sun is showing you what that ship looks like inside and how it works and how it carries its own sun, its own ecosystem, and how it can carry that. That was the thing about it. And some of the things I have to draw, they're complex because I'm like, I don't even understand it, but I just draw and get the download done, and then I'll worry about understanding it later. That was the whole process about that.
All right. How about this one? What's going on here?
This is actually about, if you look at, there are people beneath, and it shows what is feel the energy, which is when we go into the golden age, and that these, I believe in these higher realms of the kingdoms. I don't believe the cities are going to be on the ground. I believe the cities are going to be in the sky. And they showed how the energy is just, is trying to express how amazing the energy is and how it works and how it moves through everything, and so they showed me, they're trying to explain to me. So this is like a reflection in the sky. They're like, I'll show you. Can you bring this in, this picture? I'll go into this. So I want you to think of the sky and how things reflect. And they're saying when you start to see these ships, you're going to see this massive reflection, like a mirror effect of reflections. And then they're going to look like, these square pyramids on top of pyramids off top of pyramids in the reflection. So I had to describe it in the way that so as we see it in the sky, it's going to be a massive reflection, but with movement going in and out. So, it makes it complex to understanding the vision that I had to explain. But as they're showing me in the sky, it's all mirror effect reflection that you'll see first.
Okay, lovely. And what kind of things do you have you viewed into and or think that might be coming up or into different ET races? And we can go into that, and that'll be fun.
I don't think it's hard to tap into them anymore because I feel them here. So before it was like higher, and now it's just like here. So I believe there's many races here already living, and they always show me, if you want to know where we're at, just look to the mountains. It's easy to hide there. It's easy to live there. It's easy to observe there. It's easy to see everything from the mountain terrain. So the only, I get a lot of them, but the only two that I get a distaste for is the grays and the reptilians, because there's a smell with them on different levels and stuff like that. But I don't think we're ready for the size of these aliens, because they're a lot taller than what people think, and they can perceive right through you, your sense of who you are and what's your intentions. And it's just like animals, they know that too. It's the same calmness. They're observers, and then they have their languages. It's not of the mouth, it's not of, it's a conscience. It's picking up a human, what they're saying, by the sound and the frequency of the mind, of the conscience. And that is also, when you're with up there, it's actually a very somber process to be around them, because you're not using a voice. It's in the mind of communicating. But there's a calmness with it. You're not alert by it. You're, completely satisfied with that type of communication. Dan, of like what. So I would tell you, with the species that's going on right now, just imagine tons of them around this realm, looking and witnessing upon. Universally, this is an important process in the universe, what we're going through right now. So everybody in different origins of different species is bearing the witness to see this. This is because this affects them as much as it affects us. Because when it comes to this darkness, it was interesting, because as we get into humans, we think about us, and it's just like, and they said to me one time, it's about all of us. We want this eradicated, and not to obliterate it from their existence, never to have the history. You want to take the cabal down, you want to really insult them, not to have the history, not to have their signature around. And that's what they fear. They fear that more than anything. So, and that's the thing, how we change timelines of what they're going to do with this. So, and also they're here to dispose of certain items. Hold on, let me find them. And these boxes that, and I drew another one that's big, but they said these compartments, and certain items they're taking off, and then, but they're bigger. I have them more wider. And it's almost like the movie Alien, and then you see how the energy gets sucked so fast into these boxes. So they showed these, carry things that we don't want to be near, and some things that need to be preserved. So a lot of things are being removed off this planet too, and preserved. So they're all in a process of that situation too. is preserving and containing what needs to be contained so it cannot be used or formed against us universally. And that's, I think it's hard because you think of this world, but they are like, look at this universally. It's all of us affected by this. We want a balance across the universe. We want to bring in Earth society in our whole universe and being working together. That's the thing. And that's what's important, don't you think? Finally.
Oh yeah.
I feel alone in a different way. Let me just open that door. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, and it seems like some of the bigger shifts that can happen, like with what you said, is with what's all these positive ET races that are looking in, waiting for an event to occur. What's the event? Seems like what is being ready mean? And every time I've ever been visited or abducted, that positive being, and I engage in telepathy and I ask, how do I have more contact? They're like, release more fear. You know that thing you kept getting rid of? Yeah, there's still more, and it's hidden. And there's stuff in the collective. And besides the kidneys and the adrenal glands, and there being a bunch stored there, the root chakra, survival. So there's things to face in lessons and vision quests that are these big balls of fear that you don't feel, that are stored inside people, anchoring them down. That will trigger if another sentience comes in contact with you, and it is freaking people out, kind of thing. So some of the fears that people need to face, or people need to help do themselves and then help the collective face, is fear of the unknown in dealing with other layers of sentient beings and their agenda having to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
And facing that fear as if even the worst case scenario, even if that was true, and hugging themselves, embracing, amplifying with love, and focusing on the fear and shrinking that fear down and facing the lesson as well, that doesn't need to freeze you, and it doesn't benefit you to stop you, even if that is true. And then that there's so much more, and it will be turned into the very fuel to build up the perception to see beyond what we are afraid to see.
Right. It is. It's that flesh need, and that is the one tool they used and then they put this concept of making us feel we're never enough, never right. And that is the problem with everything. And that's why I think it's so important when I teach my intuitive class is to stay out of the left brain completely. Stay out of the left brain and things will flow so easy in the right brain, because that sitting there, that is the devil right on the left side going, no, no, no. And that's why I have them wear a mask and I tick their eye, because I'm like, no, right. And then they start to see that it's getting easier because they're not acknowledging that side and you're not working in that. And then the images, you start to trust it because you're not having this argument within your own conscience. And then it starts to flow. And then we go back to that millisecond. You trust it within that second, and then it just flows through.
Yeah, that's a good point. So what if people have it in their mind to want to focus on these other sentients, what kind of things do you recommend for them if they're into viewing, communication, or contact, or figure out what's going on with both the positive and negative races, and what are beneficial knowledges that we should learn about both?
So the first thing is staying, like I said, to stay in the right brain with the situation. Get a black mask and put it on your eyes and close out the 3D. Close out the view of the 3D. Stay in here. Okay? Stay in the stillness. You stay in the stillness. You stay in here. And then everything calms down. And when you do that, and I don't like the word meditation, the way they do it here, it's just like putting the body and the soul combined in that, it's just because the spirit wants to exit and travel quick, and the body contains you. So I always get to a certain level with my students and I say, release the spirit, because the spirit is unlimited, but also understanding that protection, getting up. And then I teach them to see it for themselves. It's not what I want to see, it's what they want to experience, they see. And they tend to get to those levels. But it's important that people see it for themselves, feel it for themselves. You can teach it and you can say how great it is, but it's not until they experience it. It changes them until they visualize. The way to do that is through here, in darkness, in Hertz frequencies, in the stillness. Because when you're in that mind and you're in that set, you don't worry about anything else, but you're worried about going out. And your soul is traveling, and it's allowing it to move in motion like a jellyfish in a slow motion process, and releasing and letting go. And then you go through this amazing experience. This is the thing, Sean, I just feel that some teachers, they hold information like ransom. And I like to rip off the Band-Aid. And I'm like, throw them in it. Let them be in it themselves. They can handle it. Because when they feel they've gotten into a certain process, that door is open, they feel so fulfilled and not disappointed. It's different. So let them have the full experience. And the negative, the one word that I always say is, if something feels like it's pulling you to the left and it's trying to control, you just say identify. Because it pushes. I don't care what kind of species it is. I don't care if it's a spirit, an alien. You push that identify. You're pulling your energy back and you're saying it's me. And I'm identifying what you're doing. I'm identifying what you are. And I'm saving my own space. It changes quickly.
Beautiful. And do you have any beliefs on some of the species that are vying for in like a little timeline war, vying for first contact with humanity?
Pleiadians, we're there. Arcturians, because they are part of the healing process. There's something called the makers. They're like the architect of the universe. And I find them intriguing because I think people get them confused because they think they're grays and they're not. And they actually have a sense of humor that I've run across in that process. So there are some, I don't,
What kind of things do they look like?
A little like that, but the back head is not always as sharp, but they're smaller.
Okay.
Yeah, but
We got a few of those too.
Yeah, they're very intelligent, very humorous, and just sees things on a lighter side. And I'd say the tall whites they're more serious. I don't get that humor with them. They're just it's just not there. And then I like the Arcturians because they really, when you're around them, you feel this abundance of this light and healing and calmness, and they're probably my favorite.
Awesome. Okay. So how do people reach you and get a hold of you for your services, and name your services?
Yeah, mainly you can go to my website and, of course, my YouTube. But you can go to www.jennysssight.net. And usually all the information's on there. And, of course, Instagram and YouTube. So you can find me, Jenny Lee, the remote viewer. So I mean, and that's the thing right now. Sean, I'm doing a lot. I'm really getting a lot of clients for, I didn't think I've ever dealt with stock markets and stuff like that. And that stuff's been really good with me because the verification has to come with that, and so that's been good. I've been pushing silver for a long time, and now I pushed copper, and then 2 weeks later copper went crazy, and then some of these higher technology stocks were just going. So I have a list how I download it with Spirit, and I put it out there. I take that risk, and it's good. And then the remote medical, I can see in someone's body and see the condition, what they need, and how it works on that too. So I think that's why it's easier just to go to the website and look at everything.
Cool. And yeah, www.jennysite.net. And also, can you name your social medias, and you got any books,
well,
YouTube, or events you're looking for?
YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, and it's all on my website. It'll lead you up to all that stuff. So I'll put it in this here again, but it's mainly you can go into the website and find it on everything. But that's the whole thing. Is just and I think where me and you are alike is I just want to get everything out of the ground that's been hidden.
Me too.
For us. And it's an addiction. You can't. It is a different addiction. It drives you because it's almost a knowing, and you can't stop until you figure it all out. That's the difference with someone that just does it, and then someone that
get that bag, girl.
Oh, wow.
Get those bags up. Get your bag out of the ground.
Yeah, that's cool looking. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I think when you go back over there and you end up being there, I think you're just going to follow your instinct, and I think you're going to find something bigger than you thought.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Yeah. And do you have any books or events or conferences?
Well, yeah. Walking in Humble Spirit, I don't push it a lot, and I have some local events that are happening. I mean, I'm doing Fergus Falls. I'm doing in North Dakota and South Dakota, and I'm some in Minnesota. But it'll be on my website too. You can look on all that stuff. It's just easier to get on the website and look at all that stuff that I'm doing an event tomorrow, and it's for a med spa. Going to there because I'm a big promoter of NAD, IV. I think the IVs for our nutrients are going to be the biggest thing, the metaphysical bars, because it's the best way to heal these days. B12, NAD. I mean, you can get all your nutrients and put it in an IV and you're good. It's a better, healthier bar.
I like that. Yeah.
It is. And it helps cognitive, and you just feel like your body's rejuvenated 100% quick and fast. So I think it's great.
I agree. All that stuff. So, and please do subscribe to Jenny Lee's YouTube. Everyone out there, please smash that like, comment below if you like this show, if you want to see more done, and share it out. The more we see shared and seen, more we'll want to do these shows, and may do bigger things in the future. So you have the right, you have the power. Vote now. Get out, show us out there. And I'm Sean Bones, founder of Sonic League, sonicleague.com/services / sorry, my screen is backwards. /services or drop down menu services if you want to book a consultation, clearing, healing, unlock your dormant abilities, abundance, amplify third eye brightness, telepathy, psychic tracking, going into all these different superhuman abilities, memory retrieval. I also got a memory retrieval meditation course that teaches people how to amplify their memory psionics. So look to that. Message me on sonicleague@gmail.com if you're interested in the memory course. Nobody's doing it, and one of the biggest leaps and bounds growth in your life that you can do is remember who you are and what you've been, and the deep information and lists that you have of why you're here and what's the most important things to do. So please reach out for that. And you can also reach me at sonicleague@gmail.com if you're interested in future trips in Mexico and England and Ireland and other things. And if you're interested in the alien artifacts we're digging up, and you want to be a contactee. And I'll be at the 5D event tomorrow. So come on to Sedona. So see me there in 5D event, as well as the Super Soldier Conference in Hawaii in a few days after that. Get your tickets. They're in the description. Thank you all for coming. And if any last words of wisdom you want to leave the audience?
I would say look to the stars, look to the sky, look to the sun, and look to the animals, because they are going to activate in a major way. And I think we're down to a process that it is going to make us humble, Sean, when this happens. I think that's a good thing.
That's a good point. Yeah, as we're contending with the greater consciousness that's emerging and the reflection of the reality being alive, and it all interacting at a greater level in communication. So get ready for that, as well as support it in them thriving and growing of your empowerment as well. And then the cup filleth over, 100 monkey effect. So love you all. Please get this out there, upgrades vision-wise for people that get this to more people. Please share it. And love you all. Hope you have a wonderful night. And look to the stars. We'll see you guys later. Have a good one.
Take care.